Welcome. This is the Late Late Show with BT, where views with security and law are being provided to you, the public. Today we'll be reading from the Oprah magazine, July 2015, Cosmopolitan, June 2016, Good Housekeeping, May 2016, Parents, May 2016, Vogue, December 2015, Teen Vogue, November 2015, Harper's Bazaar, May 2016, and People, July 13, 2015. And we're still reading from Memoirs of a Geisha. That is the book, and it will be part 2 today. Change to believe in. Jennifer Massia. Reports of someone roaming a school with a guy have become common, but these episodes usually end in arrest, which is what I'm expecting when my editor speaks again. One mother tells a reporter that her 16-year-old daughter, while inside the school, announced her bully wounds to friends and family via Facebook. The effer shot me in the back. Her word, not mine. He was arrested on his way back to Miami, where he just moved with his first wife and their 3 children. They married when he got out in 1975, and I was born 2 years later. 2 weeks before I watched her take her last breath, she confessed that Joe Fish wasn't my father's only victim. Suddenly, my whole childhood was revealed to be a lie. But the truth had been far worse. I was the daughter of a killer and the woman who kept his awful secrets. Over and over, I'd be writing about a man killing his wife and their children, and I couldn't help but think of my own family, and despite everything I'd learned, how precious my years of happiness with them had been. It so happens they both spoke harshly about the Second Amendment. I gave it to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or ATF, to run ballistics to see if it had been used in any crimes. I never shot a gun until last March, when in an effort to better understand the world I'm covering, I trekked up to Connecticut to try semi-automatic rifles that had been banned in New York. But after I left the New York Times for the trace, the horror and the apathy it seems to inspire on the part of our lawmakers became familiar, and soon it faded into the background. Here at the Trace, which is funded by former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg's nonprofit Urban Town for Gun Safety, my colleagues and I don't have to be pulled off a shooting story to cover a budget crisis. Because of political pressures, Center for Disease Control and Prevention research into gun violence has been frozen for 19 years. And because of a law pushed by the gun lobby, the ATF can't release gun trace data to anyone but law enforcement. Little by little, data on gun violence, so long politicized and repressed, are finding their way into the public domain. The last time I was stopped in my tracks was when Allison Parker and Adam Ward, a news reporting team from Virginia, were murdered on live television by their former coworker, who tweeted his own footage. Well, I had never heard of this case in Virginia with Parker and Ward. Let's see if there's anything online about it. Well, so yes, there is some things online about it. It says, evidently one was the videographer, the other was the reporter, and they were gunned down during a live broadcast. They were in Moneta, Virginia. And Miss Parker was the reporter. So I acknowledge that, I guess the point of it is that this career shouldn't be taken lightly. When you're sharing things or you find that you have a certain view that may or may not be popular. Um, Evidently, the woman that was being interviewed was also injured in her surgery, but the reporter and the videographer were killed. So that happened right here in the state. One thing that concerns me about the state of Virginia is the state of Virginia right now. And its issues or its competence when it comes to its competence when it comes to security. Keep in mind that we are going through a trial right now. And how it turns out, it is like the whole thing is evident of their competence or their lack of competence but already claimed the victory and the enemy has already been defeated. So evidently Ward had graduated from Virginia Tech. The reporter, Parker, started at the station, Virginia Station, as an intern. She attended Patrick Henry Community College and James Madison University in Harrisonburg. So it brings up the point because doing this show, I would like to have it produced here in Virginia, but it's more important to have it produced where there's a respect and upholdment and a competence when it comes to the security and law that we represent, whether it's local, whether it's national, whether it's continental, but that there's a respect and and the reason why I bring up respect and upholdment and there's an order to it, because it is what it is, but when it comes to security versus police, security has more of I wouldn't say a higher authority than the police do, but it's different. And it's law enforcement. Some could argue that it is a little bit higher than police. So when the police is out of order when it comes to security, um, it can be a problem. So, when we have, this type of thing happen in Virginia, or with those journalists, or you have that case um, that happened so long ago with John List and him moving to Virginia, and only the show America's Most Wanted brought out him as an offender, but he was here and remarried and everything in the state of Virginia after killing his mom, his wife, and kids. We have a community that we serve with regards to children and family. We want to make sure that we're in a state that's sensitive to when it comes to sexual offenses, especially when it's sexual offenses in families, against kids and babies. It has to be sensitive and strong and not be afraid to enforce even when it's national, but it's happening right there. And that's really what it is when it's national, but it's happening in the state of Virginia. It's state law, but the case is national. You can't be afraid to enforce the law. You can't see what's going on because it's national in your state or your city. And, it just can't be a situation where the offenders are still allowed to offend and still allowed to call themselves free. Sharply structured clutches and clever men audiers will have you thinking outside the box. In pursuit of perfect kite surfing conditions, discovers Moroccan oasis untouched by time. Robert Sullivan. Haynes articulates the mood and emotion of fashion like few other directors, from the sweeps of autumn-colored society dresses that seem almost to smother Julianne Moore's character in Far From Heaven, to long gloves and silks that are in Carol, his newest film, devoured by the camera of Rooney Mara's character. This on a road trip that already appears to channel spring slip dresses and nightwear vibe. I like the bodysuit that looked like tattoos, Haynes said. It sounds like the Thomas Brown show was the most structured, said Haynes, who, waylaid by a code, had to miss it. I saw it as the bride turning into the school mistress. Robert Sullivan. When I grow up, I want to be a fireman. With boutique fitness studios resembling discos and members-only wellness clubs offering the promise of spiritual and social enlightenment, grabs a tequila spiked green juice and joins up. Gives up eyelash extensions and revamps her holiday beauty look. John Powers. While this 22-year-old proud Londoner does possess a face of unforgettable vividness, his eyebrows are veritable emoticons. It's how he uses those features that everyone finds exciting in roles like the hulking bully in The Maze Runner or blushing teen in We're the Millers. Poulter plays the youthful assistant to DiCaprio's frontiersman in the brutal western wilderness, a place he came to know all too well. Making The Revenant was the hardest thing I'll ever do, he says, of shooting the bitter cold of an Alberta winter. Of course, she and have hit it all. They're both startlingly ribald and whip-smart. Pitched his next project by reading his entire screenplay to her over a bottle of wine, and she signed up on the spot. I don't think that would be how I would want to sign up over a bottle of wine and you read the entire screenplay over a bottle of wine. I think I'll pass on that opportunity, if that's an opportunity. Bringing back the blame. Ties that bind. I mean, it'd be different if it's, back to the bottle of wine and the screenplay. It'll be different if it's like the one for you. Then it makes sense. Back to the land. Mark Guiducci. Perhaps for a breakthrough year and displays a hard-won normalcy. This month she will appear as herself in The Big Short, the Oscar-ambitious adaptation of Michael Lewis's 2010 bestseller. She has already released her second solo album, Revival, which will supply a string of singles to last through her world tour beginning in May. Now, I do recall viewing The Big Short, but I do not recall Selena in it. True Blue. They're beautiful. Nothing's better than a pair of luxurious gold-toe socks, unless, of course, you happen to layer in with a pair of gold-toe tights. "25 things to do this month." Of them, get major beauty scoop from Fat Mascara, the new podcast from Cosmo's own Jess Matlin and beauty editor Jen Goldstein. Also among 25 things to do this month, Kelly Kapowski at Chicago's Saved by the Bell themed pop-up dinner, Saved by the Max. And will it be NYC's Governor's Ball, Tennessee's Bonnaroo, or Vegas' Electric Daisy Carnival? Were you there? Seat at the table. From beach to bar. From beach to bar. Body talk. For Independence Day, bring the fireworks and sexy stars and stripes. Jessica Matlin. What may seem like an indulgence could weirdly be a big boost to your well-being, but there's a case to be made for a regular manicure. Don't call, don't write. I'm in the bubble. Mindfulness, the idea of staying in the now, is one of those buzzy ideas that makes some people roll their eyes, but I got the hang of it the first time I cracked open Deborah Lipman's color, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Dip a finger into the foam, twist a few times, and remove to reveal a totally bare nail. Jessica Matlin. If your current beauty goals include chiseled cheeks or brows on fleek, surprise, Instagram has hijacked your look. In addition, brow products are up by 29% and lip liner by 13%. Surprising for a product that's been on life support post-90s. The Estee edit, inspired by the kind of products collaborators and Insta stars Kendall Jenner and Irene Kim obsess over. These products are new, but the techniques that inspired them, drag makeup is all about recreating the bone structure, brightness, and lips of a woman's face on a man's. They're all illusions, she says. Back then, the reality star posted her contouring and baking selfies on her Facebook and blog. When the Kim photos went viral, that was the very beginning of the contouring and baking trend, he says, acknowledging he's borrowing a page out of an old playbook. With the internet, he says, he, along with Kim and YouTubers, has brought these tricks to the mainstream. These techniques were once well guarded, he says, but there are no beauty secrets anymore. Tap a tiny bit of highlighting cream or powder onto the tops of cheekbones. Leave true baking to the pros. Simply dust base with powder. Creamy formulas are better for beginners. They blend more easily than powders. Brush through brows after filling to soften the effect. Jessica Matlin. Lauren Balsamo. Consider this. Repeat exposure can have consequences that are as bad as an unprotected day at the beach. SPF 15 used to be the daily recommendation, but the American Academy of Dermatology has upped that to SPF 30, says MD, a dermatologist in New York City. The former checkout clinic here is made of zinc oxide and or titanium dioxide, ingredients that block rays instantly. So I haven't gotten into the whole SPF sunscreen, sunblock thing. Um, it just seemed very complicated. It might not be the best solution, but there could be some good solutions out there though to resolve that issue. Beauty. Shake up your beauty routine and get better results. It's time to break some rules. Laurent Vassamo. Makeup before toner. If your favorite toner is pumpless, pour it into a bottle with a spray nozzle so you can mist on the go. Wait 30 seconds between layers. The buffer will mitigate side effects without compromising efficacy. So they're saying to put the makeup on, but she's saying to put makeup on before toner. Now I know back in the day, you put the toner on before your makeup, but this suggestion is to do the toner afterwards. What could these be? Jennifer Ashton, MD, OBGYN, and ABC News chief women's health correspondent is the source. It's not anything to be concerned about. Does getting a base tan help? So I guess if I were just doing what a base tan is, that it's like a tan for a specific amount of time that you do before your regular full out tan. Or it's just something that you spray on before you full out tan. It's such a complicated situation, and it's not for everybody, but if you find yourself going or falling or surrendering to that community, the only thing that I would suggest is to be consistent. Beauty and the beach. What's the best sunscreen for me? Your sunscreen should be too. Which is worse, going to a tanning bed or lying out? Again, it's about what you are doing. If you're trying to get a base tan, or what you're used to doing, and being consistent and staying consistent, and that will probably alleviate any of the unfavorable effects, such as being too red or not tan enough. Channel your inner unicorn and ignite the sparkle to radiate confidence on the beach and beyond. Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan, aka the Plug Girls, meet the women behind the scenes. Come high school, she dyed her hair blonde and wear blue contacts to blend in, all thanks to those first mean girls who had her eating lunch in the bathroom. It was important for me to have a brand that was so you got to know me. I don't want to be a lie, she says. With Hollywood eager to boost ticket sales, Monster social sway makes her that much more attractive to casting agents. That's because once was that fruit plate person, Three lives. She was living in Toronto, auditioning during the day, and working bottle service at night. Like, what? So I can be taken care of? Let that be something that I do. I announced at the beginning of a relationship, I'm not going to be sharing this with anybody. And if you're offended, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be with you anyway because that's fucking weird. I always had birth control and condoms at a young age. I don't want to be dependent on a call from my agent taking projects I'm not okay with because I need to. To be honest, winning an Oscar is not one of my goals. How am I going to be like, I'm over this show? Not when I know how many actors would die to be in my position. It's just that wants to be her own boss. She's pitching shows, managing endorsement deals, and relaunching her lifestyle blog, amoreandvita.com. But I'm just saying, I never liked being told no. Turban legend. Beauty tip. Beauty tip. Better try Lancome Glow Subtle Sticky Cream Highlighter. It strokes cheeks and lids with the perfect amount of sheen. Nikki Glaser's Guide to Being Confidently Funny. From Heather Havrilski, aka Ask Polly, author of How to Be a Person in the World. I'm going to be fine either way. She wants what she wants, and he wants what he wants. And in the end, they both give in a tiny bit because they realize that they found their soulmate and it's worth it. Break the rules. Amanda Cohen. Crowds buzzed nonstop about Cohen's vegetarian restaurant, but in 2013, the buzz was about her New York Times op-ed in response to another all-male Food Gods feature. Christine Flynn. It's an amazing time to be a woman in food, and it's an amazing time to be a woman in comedy, because those are the places where people are talking about gender imbalance the most. That's Flynn, who was revealed to be the genius behind the Instagram account Chef Jacques Slumber, who transforms junk food into certified hashtag food porn. Question: what could you stand to be more relaxed about? Janet Carlisle, Collingwood, Ontario. My husband and I will both be turning 60 next year and just begin to live on a limited income. I know we're managed, but I'd like to be more relaxed about our retirement so we can enjoy it. Melissa Perky, Boise, Idaho. He was going to be my form of emotional therapy, but it turns out I'm his. So what could I stand to be more relaxed about? Um, I consider myself to be a relaxed person, but I could stand to be more relaxed about I cannot think of one thing that I could stand to be more relaxed about. And our next question, what would be the title of your life story and why? It would probably be something like peace, truth, love, belief, and togetherness. And because those are some key qualities that I feel not only I, my better half, possess, or that we've been given, and not only that gifts that we've been given, but I believe that it's their gifts that we can also give out. Um, that our life and other people's lives as well. So, yeah, peace, truth, love, life, I add life, belief, and togetherness. Back to the Future. Jessica Hish. The asymmetry of the capital R, for instance, the round vowel, the straight stem, the leg, there are so many places to add pizzazz. Jessica Press. They were independent, stylish, and strong, says 26, not sitting on the back of a man's bike. This summer, McNaughton is on a cross-country tour sponsored by Harley Davidson. Next, she hopes to document the biking culture in countries like France and Thailand. But the next thing I know, we're flying down the road and no words are needed. I like the idea of a motorcycle, but sometimes when I think about it and, things flying from cars that could potentially touch your face or your body, and um, it doesn't seem too appealing. But, in those areas where there's very little traffic, it would probably be more appealing to me. But so, like, it gives you so much freedom. It seems like an appealing vehicle or mode of transportation. At MD Anderson Cancer Center, we are proud to be the official cancer center of the PGA Tour. Each moment is a chance to be reborn, this time without clenching and tightening. Martha Beck's latest book is the Martha Beck Collection, Essays for Creating Your Right Life, Volume 1, Martha Beck Incorporated. Lisa Colgan. Are we talking wife swapping? Is he interested in 50 Shades of Grey, or is it more of an okay, honey, tonight I'll be with the wombat and I'll be the wombat and you be the ambassador to Australia kind of thing? But then one day you're sitting at a sushi bar business when all of a sudden Mrs. Perfect wanders in, and before you know it, the two of you are huddled together, fretting over Mandy Patinkin while slurping urchin broth like there's no tomorrow. You see, my ambivalent buddy, there's something to be said for staying open to possibility. What a lovely way to burn. The 4 things you must know before transitioning your hair, plus the essential guides looking great as you're doing it. Of those, you need to be patient, and you should plan on lots of little trims if you don't do the big chop. Lower breast cancer risks. What's one of the fastest, easiest, most delicious ways to be transported? The fastest, easiest, most delicious ways. Michelle Wilding. Recent writers may have modernized the journey, but the trope predates them. Europe has long hosted fictional American ingenues seeking the best versions of themselves, from Isabel Archer, her doomed but determined choice of a husband, and The Portrait of a Lady, to Isabel Walker, who got quite a Parisian education over men in lingerie and lay divorce. This is just one example of the surprises to be found in these pages. What the questers tend to have in common is that they seek one thing, but often find another. When you're the one person you answer to, these books remind us it's only a matter of time before that authority starts to feel just right. Stacey D. Waxman. It is equally possible, however, that the book doesn't care all that much either. These writers expertly deliver the texture of daily life in worlds made just slightly strange by the distance of history. Sayers' characters wear their academic gowns at Oxford, black sleeves fluttering as they bicycle to class. They don't solve their cases by reason as much as by their hard-won knowledge of the often duplicitous human heart, starting with their own. Doesn't sound terribly escapist, does it? Where are the tropical islands, the beautiful strangers? Orient by Christopher Bolin. A bizarre crime wave involving murders, arson, and animal corpse has reached a quaint Long Island beach town. In this serpentine tale that takes the perspective of both locals and vacationers, Bolin ingeniously leads us to suspect that practically any one of the characters could be the prey. By Christopher Bolin. Mary Carr. How moving it is, and how marvelous, to see a life unfold between two covers. Mary Carr explores the sublime pleasure to be found in following someone else's struggles and triumphs. Our whole family enterprise seemed to teeter on the precipice of oblivion. My drunk driving daddy weaving down country roads, my 7 times married mother cursing him into the heavens or locking herself in the bathroom with a loaded pistol. But they were dangerous to both themselves and me. To survive them, I would need compassion, which requires a fluency in psychological complexity and nuance, something I could find only in books. Blind and deaf was more stranded in her wordless body than I could find. What I scrawled in my journal at age 10 bears repeating here, for both the despair and desire it embodies. I am not very successful as a little girl. The best memoirs I've read deliver such salvation. Mary Potter. David Mitchell. My first visit came by the 1983 novel A Rebel in Time by Harry Harrison, in which a racist U.S. colonel returns to the late 1850s to manufacture submarine guns for the Confederacy, thereby rebooting our reality into one where the South wins the Civil War. After each of her deaths from strangulation by umbilical cord onward, she is reborn in her birth year, but in an alternate reality and with a divergent longer life and death ahead of her. The first 15 lives of Harry August treads similar ground, with his protagonist come back to life on the same day each time he dies, always retaining perfectly part of his former lives. Like Bill Murray's character in Groundhog Day, sooner or later these two will have to face the big questions, which the reader chooses along with them. Birthday cake milkshakes. Lisa Kogan, writer at large. Always sang it to her, but for bed on her birthday. Jessica Gross. A common scenario, I get an email from an editor moving up a deadline by 2 days. The sitter is leaving in 2 hours, and my toddler has a case of the grumps. Melissa Mayers. Now, whenever I need to calm down, I remember that nothing is the best thing I can do. The beauty issue. It won't be truly beautiful until it's sparkling in your hand as you sip your tea and hug our kids and open the door to a world that gets more incredible all the time, just because you're in it. Beauty Masters, top hair and makeup visionaries create the must-have looks of the season. The British makeup artist and artistic director of Shiseido makeup on his breakout moment, The Power of Color, and the biggest beauty blunder. Questions by Jessica Minkoff. When did you realize that you wanted to be a makeup artist? So, I never really wanted to be a makeup artist, but I did start having an interest in doing masks. Like masks that could be used for horror movies or masks that could be used for festivals or intercultural festivals or festivals that use masks in them, such as African masks, Asian masks. And I saw that it was a step past makeup. So it sparked an interest in the art of makeup. How do you come up with a beauty concept for the show? Well, each show, each segment, each area, each department has its own special uniqueness. So it's really not about coming up with anything new. It's just about Um, because they do have a uniqueness, it's about showing or reflecting that uniqueness with beauty. What are three beauty products everyone should have in their handbag? I like Origins. It's like this spritz, or it's like a water spray. You get that, or you can actually put water in a spray bottle. Um, um, so that's one. Some lip balm would be two. Even though I don't keep lip balm with Vaseline or something like that. Um, and a pad or a sanitary napkin or a tampon or whatever you use. What is the biggest beauty blunder? I do not have a biggest beauty blunder. The Bazaar. Flirtatious with the juicy bite of red apple and the opulence of jasmine, rose, and gillyflower. Tory Burch. Prints, embroideries, and fringe hit all the boho high notes. Born to glow, liquid illuminator, and sun goddess. The Bazaar. True blend bronzer. The bee's knees are among the best of the season, all available at shopbazaar.com. Lauren McCarthy. The idea was to take the best imagery and color and silhouette from my luxury label and reinterpret it for a new audience. As for the bags, expect new takes on classic styles like the Atlantic and the Boxer. Let's beauty together. Tropical Bliss. The best spas, Carrie Goldberg. Summer Beauty Special. Beat the heat with the best new makeup, skin, and hair products, plus top expert tips. The beach is calling. Prep and print with the newest tricks and treatments. Beauty news. New brand to know. May's birthstone is superbly representing this Le Beyond Couture 18K vanilla gold ring with 9.06 carat Costa Esmeralda, sweetly extended with 1.66 carats of vanilla diamonds. The Buzz. Back to black. Shades of Beauty, a multicultural celebration of the many hues of beauty and culture and couture. He stayed over in one of my guest bedrooms, but that's where I started puking. She would be totally up for it. Wasting time with Woody with time at the bar. I don't have to be wary of people, it's fine. Then I watch TV and then I go to bed. Thankfully for her survival on the onion root earth, Mars has become a real beauty. I cannot believe it when they signed me to be in their campaign, she says. You don't have to be so nice. The bare minimum, just for me, would be to update me. Truth, Beauty, and this is by Laura Brown. So back for this, there is zero reason to be intimidated by me. She tried to be a low-key presence in New York, but the city finds her anyway. You can understand why her friends are so famed, so such ballers, because to be Lawrence's friend, balls are a requirement. I can feel people sometimes are intimidated by me, but I try to do the best that I can, so I'll say that, she says. There is zero reason to be intimidated by me. I have no idea it was going to blow up, she recalled like that, she recalls. I try not to be too sensitive to poor rituals, she explains. That said, doesn't think being a pleaser equals being weak. You know, I want my employers to be happy. If we are moving forward in society, you are feeling strong as a woman and you want to be taken more seriously. Jennifer Lawrence. Dive into summer with new workout tips and the best swimwear of the season. Our best advice for how to survive bathing suit season, generous applications of self-tanner to conceal imperfections. Judicious use of SPF 30, lay off the carbs to binge load band, and finally make the most of your workouts that you blast calories and create lean muscle in less time. Using your upper body, core, and legs, and the burpee jump activates fast twitch muscles and jacks up your heart rate. Incorporating new movement patterns front to back, side to side, and rotationally builds dynamic strength that burns tons of calories, says an instructor at base camp, a 35-minute HIIT or high intensity interval training workout in Santa Monica. If you want your backside to look defined and firm, hold skeleton moves for 45 to 60 seconds, suggests founder of $10 training in New York. Your body will continue to burn calories for up to 48 hours, he says. Power through your next workout on physical compression bands, which are layered with panels that act like built-in resistance bands and can boost muscle activation by 23% and calorie burn by 14%. They counteract your muscle movement so you get a more effective workout, says John Ross Rizzo, an assistant professor of rehabilitation medicine at NYU Langone Medical Center in New York, who recommends lower body moves for the best results. If you got weight to lose, HIIT is the most efficient way to burn fat quickly, explains Jacqueline Payson, a trainer at the Avenue at 1220 in Miami Beach. Tap your right foot on the floor to the left of the ball. Return the foot to the ball and roll back to the plane. Which switch legs. For your body to change, your workout must has to change too. It doesn't have to be much. A pound increase, 2 extra reps, or 5 more seconds of work, explains Carrie Ashton, a personal trainer in New York. Nicole Catanese. I don't think designers have to be so overexposed. Where to buy? Now there are going to be so many female buddy pictures, so many female action figures. It wasn't anything remotely like our film, but the studio turned around and said to her, "Oh no, there's been Thelma and Louise." It didn't used to be this way, even just a few years ago. But the most liberating thing about filming Thelma and Louise was hanging around with Susan. I remember telling Susan once, "I'm never going to be like you. You're always going to be ahead of me." We used to whatever people recognizing us, but together it was crazy. People ask me, is there going to be a sequel? Where would they be now if they lived? It was a beautiful, beautiful place to be working. The joke for a while was that there was only going to be a voiceover of us because of these amazing shots they were getting all the time. We were in such a testosterone-infused atmosphere as Ridley was adored by the crew. That car is still there at the bottom of the cliff, by the way. She's the best. You don't always have to be about liberation. Then there's Shailene Woodley and Ellen Page and Brie Larson. They seem to be creating a lot. These women are using their careers instead of being used by them because There's this huge movement now to expose rape and make sure people are accountable. Where would they be now if they lived? I certainly could drive better by the end of the movie, so maybe I became a driver of some sort. The Beauty of Carmen Del Orifice. Meet global beauty muse Irene Kim. Fun fashion-free bedroom, designed by teen Road editor. Lip jobs and nose jobs are setting the new standards of beauty. Well, I like to keep my all natural. The best drugstore beauty. By the numbers. There's a warrior aspect to being happy. 2016 Beauty Breakthrough Awards. Rich yet somehow not greasy. This night queen with hyaluronic and salicylic adds is proved to soften wrinkles and boost radiance while you sleep. The Beauty Lab confirmed. April Pisano, Beauty Director. You can use a flat iron to add waves to hair by clamping the bottom of a section, then twisting it around the places. 2016 Beauty Breakthrough Awards. So again, you can use a flat iron to add waves to the hair, clamping the bottom of a section, then twisting it around the plates. Beauty Lab behind the scenes. Over 7 months, the GH Beauty Lab vetted, label aligned it, and analyzed students and tested care for hundreds of skincare writers and lines. Skincare, hair, and makeup products, tools, and technological advances, then tested the top contenders in the lab to uncover the best innovations that truly live up to the hype. A selection of the products reviewed in the Beauty Lab. There is a warrior aspect to being happy. New Jersey mom helps make the birthday wishes of children without homes come true. Once safely home, she was pierced by the thought, if that had been it, would this have been enough? In between the funnel cake and the bouncy house, I found CASA, court-appointed special advocates, a group of volunteers who watch over neglected or abused children who have been removed from their homes, said Jane. Giving them something they specifically asked for is a step in trustworthiness. Christine Kapowski. I knew exactly how to be a good mother to the outcast child. It's hard to beat the picture quality for your price, reports the GH Engineered Lab. Select one with a power nozzle brush that can be switched on to deep clean carpets and off for bare floors. Carolyn Fortune. The Bear Doll season is almost back, and we have fun and easy gift fit tips for every step between you and the beach. Bring on the backyard BBQs. Bridge to Happy Baby. My dog goes nuts when he's left alone, and I feel terrible. So the solution is condition your pup to believe good things happen when you're away. Put on some soft music so outside voices won't distract him, and leave out the stimulating toy. Ideally, one filled with a treat like peanut butter. Cancer, the beginning or the end. A beautiful spring is in the bag. Make a stunning statement this season with a bag that marries form, function, and style. Lemony beet tarts. Michael Thompson, PhD. There are good aspects to having a smaller role. She'll get to be part of the cast. She can talk with friends or the actors at rehearsing, and it may also be a relief not to have to learn all these lines. We hope you have fun, but even if you don't, it's worth doing to be part of your community. In this day and age, we're raising children who want to be successful, so you can't blame her for being too ambitious. You told us which candidates you were allowed to babysit your children. Let's hope they're better qualified to take care of your country. Lisa Macassione out of Yorkville, Illinois. Between taking unpaid leave after my first baby was born and having some classes get canceled unexpectedly, I went about 9 months without bringing in any income. Don Cook, Thomasville, Georgia. And that's not enough time, especially when you know that in other countries, people get as much as 6 months with their baby. Birth order debunked. You could chalk it up to birth order, but a study of proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences suggests that a person's place in the family doesn't matter when it comes to personality. Jennifer Cole. Leslie and Bobby Reed of Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, were distraught when their 2-year-old nonverbal daughter, Melina, was diagnosed with autism in 2001. But Leslie wanted to help other families, so they founded the Healing Every Autistic Life, or HEAL Foundation, healautismland.org, to provide funds for specialized programs, education, and more. One of his biggest initiatives is iHeal, a partnership with Apple that gives iPads to teachers and trains them to use apps to better teach students with autism. The child has also had a huge impact on Leah, now 17. She's still nonverbal, but she can communicate with us through her iPad and tell us how her day was, Leslie says. A bulb that won't wake up your baby. Instead, your little one's brain will register documents, keeping them from fully. Instead, your little one's brain will register documents, keeping him from fully waking up and letting you get back to bed more quickly. David L. Hill, MD. If your child has seasonal allergies, he should ideally start the medicines at least 2 or 3 weeks before the beginning of the season, which depends on his specific allergy, and continue them through the end. That's because the runny nose, stuffiness, itching, sneezing, and watering eyes result from a whole cascade of events in the immune system, and once it gets going, it's hard to stop. Antihistamines can help relieve symptoms during an attack, but they are even more effective if they're in the bloodstream before the attack starts. Or antihistamines relieve many allergy symptoms, including sneezing and itchy eyes, by blocking histamine, the chemical culprit in the body, but they don't relieve nasal congestion. Rain can wash away pollen, but the relief is only temporary, since pollen counts can rise rapidly following wet weather. In order to benefit from the therapy, children need to be at least 5 years old and have a positive allergy test for a pollen allergy that can cause sneezing, runny or itchy nose, and watery eyes. Research has shown that any honey works as well as medicine for cough, given by teaspoon or in as needed basis. But the jury is still out on whether local honey reduces alcohol symptoms. Whether local honey reduces allergy symptoms in children. That said, it has to be the yummiest, unproven therapy out there. While breeders claim that any number of breeds are better for allergies, not only do studies fail to back up these claims, they show that some dogs sold as being hypoallergenic actually can cause just as many symptoms as the regular kind, because skin and saliva proteins, not just hair, trigger allergy symptoms. David Elvira. Lisa Flick, Bloomsburg, PA. I took Kelsey to the doctor to check out a nasty bug bite on the side of her knee. The doctor explained that not only was it a spider bite, but the insect had laid eggs under the skin. I was aghast, but Kelsey clutched her chest and exclaimed, "Oh, I'm going to be a mother." The smartest new beauty products under 25. Jeanette Moninger. Once you've had a baby, you're used to bearing it all with your OBGYN. Depression, whether it occurs right after you give birth or not until years later, usually isn't something that will get better on its own, says doctor. I'm beyond tired. The National Institutes of Health estimates that up to 10% of women develop some type of thyroid disorder within a year after giving birth. However, if you've tried those but still regularly dribble a little, you're probably not doing the correct way. When it comes to birth control, sometimes we wing it. And a survey from Key Women's Health found that 2 out of 5 women of childbearing age regularly skip contraception, in part because they underestimate their chance of getting pregnant. It's possible to get pregnant as early as 4 weeks after giving birth, so new moms aren't safe. Declutter your bathroom. Virginia Soul Smith. Finally, progress is being made, but you still need to be vigilant about protecting your family. When I was pregnant, I was pretty convinced that with research and savvy shopping, I could protect my baby from all the big, bad, scary chemicals in the world. It turned out that the glass bottle I chose didn't have a nipple she liked, and later she thought the spout on the BPA-free sippy cup was too hard. There are more than 84,000 chemicals used in consumer goods today, but no law requires them to be tested for safety, says Parents Advisor, MD, Professor of Preventive Medicine and Pediatrics at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York City. High on the list, chemicals that are known to be endocrine disruptors, including BPA and phthalates, which can mimic hormones or interfere with the production of them, and are often not listed on product labels. The American Chemistry Council, which represents chemical companies, points out that many chemical ingredients have benefits. Chemicals are present in products because they provide characteristics that enable a product to perform better, says Director of Product Safety and Stakeholder Communications. This is what you need to be most concerned about, according to leading children's and environmental health experts. Unfortunately, brands that have the best rating from Skin Deep often tend to be more expensive, in part because they are made by smaller companies and because safer ingredients generally cost more. It's best to choose sunscreens that are made with titanium dioxide or zinc oxide, which sit on top of the skin and create a physical barrier, or with those made with ingredients that absorb into your child's skin, such as oxybenzone or retinol. However, the new law makes children's products exempt from flammability standards, so many products are likely to be flame retardant free. For food purposes, it's better to limit the use of plastic and melamine altogether. So back to the sunscreen, they're saying that it's best to choose sunscreen that sits on top of your skin as opposed to absorbing in the skin. And the kind that absorb in the skin that you may want to not buy is oxybenzone, or retinol palmitate. But the kind that sit on the skin has titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. Jessica Lee Hester. Adventurous fights will feel right at home in this land before time, made with full fossils and toy dinosaurs. Layer at the base of your pedestal bowl with gravel first, then soil, and topped with preserved sheet moss. Set out cork toadstools in a bench made from bark, then bring on the snails. Build a magical world below the waves where mer fairies can ride sea turtles and sleep in a sandcastle. Glue to top of tube, decorate with shells. Center and glue to shell's underside, then bend to form legs. By taking up residence in this magical rent-free paradise, I, the undersigned, hereby agree to keep my space clean and tidy. Hack the changing table. Get inspired by their thrifty transformations. A pretend playwork table. Break out the blender and throw a family-friendly Cinco de Mayo party with easy crafts and fun recipes from Mexican Mom, author of the new cookbook, Mexican Today. Will my periods be the same as they were before? Are my periods going to be irregular at first? It seems as though your period wouldn't be the same just because you've experienced something different that wasn't an experience before you had your period. So even if it appears to be the same, it seems as though it still will be different. Arnold Schwarzenegger. I had to gain 10 pounds to get as close to the body weight that I had in 1984. You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again. But I don't want to be a pirate. Sean Diddy Combs, who dusted off his moniker Puff Daddy, and hip-hop icon Lil Kim reunite for a performance of It's All About the Benjamins, paying tribute to record label Bad Boy. Its built-in backup braid helps stop leaks by channeling them back into the core, protecting you in a way no other tampon does. Patrick Gomez. Despite having written that news of the pregnancy was a huge disappointment to her family, friends, and fans early in the week, Helen clarified on her blog that she does not regret this baby. I cannot wait to be a mom ×2. Trip is going to make the best big brother. Cameron Diaz. But don't be surprised to see her calm down a bit and get in the best shape for a possible pregnancy. Patrick Gomez. Keith Staskowitz. It's more of an introduction to Batman, an opening to Justice League, and an expansion of the world that was created and managed. At the time, I was 40, 41, and had just finished Argo, and I felt like this seems like a strange way to get to Batman. Jennifer Garcia. It was such a great experience for me. So Feeding America, which works to feed the hungry through a nationwide network of food banks, asked me if I would continue to be involved. Jennifer Love Hewitt gave birth to a baby boy, Addis James, on June 24th, her second child, with husband Brian Howard said. Addis joins his big sister, Autumn James. But your plan for birth control wasn't. The best new books, Kim Hubbard. Benjamin John Cox. So this includes Benjamin John Cox by Benjamin John Cox, The Last Pilot. Test pilot Jim Harrison wants to be one of them, but his calling exacts a price, especially after personal tragedy strikes. George Harris. They've been through their share of hardships, both were fired for being gay at one point in their careers, but they say it was worth the wait. Nicole Wessensy Egan. Basically, the doctors say goodbye and good luck, recalls a Fairfield, Connecticut. Many had gone broke paying for treatments because their health insurance wouldn't cover them. Angela Swantig, the first whistleblower. As soon as she got into her car, she began to cry. And I felt terrible for the patients because they had no idea what was going on in the office. Tim Parkin, 54, with wife Geraldine, overdosed with chemotherapy and other drugs. With the intense chemotherapy regimen, Fatal ordered 8 treatments instead of the medically recommended 6 and 2 years of cancer-fighting drug Rituxan, left him weak, sick, and with severe back and bone pain. It's just hard to believe somebody would do that for all money. I can always hope things will go back to normal, but I don't think they ever will. I don't believe I will ever be the same. I just keep going on and hope for the best. Robert Sobiere underwent 2 years of cancer treatments despite never having cancer. So now it's time for a puzzler. 30 across, 3 letters, blank gone by the Grateful Dead. 31 across, 4 letters, blank the blue, stars, 17 across, into, INTO. 35 across, 3 letters, bad teacher with blank grammar. Now let's go to Austin, Texas. Great music, delicious food, and southern charm will keep the TV coming back to the happening city. I've been traveling to Austin for more than 15 years. I loved it immediately because the city was and is so utopian to me and represents what I think is cool about being an American. I always say you don't have to be rich to live a rich life, and the people of Austin live that way every day. Mario Batali's Traverse City, Michigan. I feel really grateful to be able to spend time in such a special place. Now we see people coming for gastronomic tourism, and that's beautiful. Cherry BBQ sauce. I developed this recipe many years ago as a nod to Michigan's famous exports as Batali. Jennifer Hayden, like any new mom, was nervous before the birth of her twins, son Cooper Blue and daughter Kingsley Rainbow, who were welcomed by a surrogate in April. But the delivery room nurses were holding them in these weird positions. It helped me understand that they're not going to break. My parents spoil them. My dad loves seeing his clothes on them, says Lauren, who adds that she can't wait for the babies to get a little bit older. Bringing them to work will be fun, says Lauren, at home in New York City with her 2-month-old twins. Eric Dane. I get inspired annually around this time by commitment to salads, which helps homeless and low-income individuals find jobs. We gave up a hipper SUV for the minivan. My family loves Big Mini because they get to watch movies in it. Eric Dane. In our Outer Network Spotlight, expect to change, love the transformation. With Care Transform Technology, the new Stick and salon services beautifully transform your hair with results lasting for weeks. You can expect your Stick color service to leave hair moisturized and color protected for up to 6 weeks. Your Stick control service to leave hair with reduced wave and enhanced smoothness to up to 3 to 5 months. Your Stick reconstruct service to leave hair repaired and softened for up to 10 washes. Your Stick repower service to leave hair feeling and looking forward for up to 10 washes. Our Outer Network Spotlight, Goldwell, exclusively at Goldwell Salons. Now it's time for the book, and we are at chapter 11. We're reading Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden. Washington Post Book World says it's astonishing, breathtaking, you are seduced completely. I should explain just what Mamiya meant by older sister, even though at the time I hardly knew much about it myself. By the time a girl is finally ready to make her debut as an apprentice, she needs to have established a relationship with a more experienced geisha. Mamiya had mentioned Hatsumomo's older sister, the great Tomi Hatsu, who was already an old woman when she trained Hatsumomo. But older sisters aren't always so senior to the geisha they train. Any geisha can act as older sister to a younger girl, as long as she has at least one day's seniority. When two girls are bound together as sisters, they perform a ceremony like a wedding. Afterward, they see each other almost as members of the same family. I'm reading from the beginning. And this is the Late Late Show with BT's version. I'm sorry. I haven't been to sleep yet. It's one of those days where I've been up, like, I had like maybe 15 minutes of sleep, where I'm like up through the day, you know. Um, so like doing this shit like this can't happen. Like I can't have times where I don't sleep for days on end, because I found myself like going in and going out as I was doing the show, and that's not, you know, the best. And then I'm just reading this and not even doing the Late Late Show with BT's version. So let me get a moment. Let me just have a moment here. I went somewhere and I had a headache, and I was like, I'm gonna go home, take me a shower, and go to bed. But when I got home, I was met by an intruder. Like, oh my gosh, like, okay, did I just walk into someone else's home? Like, am I the intruder here? So I left. I didn't get a chance to sleep or take a shower. I just left and, you know, went someplace else, dozed off for like 15 minutes, and, just, I don't even know what I did. Watched the news or something like that. And knew I had to be in here to do the show, and just bided my time doing errands, and to come do the show. And then after the show, I have to check on something because I'm like, this, like I can't see myself living somewhere where is a constant attempt to intrude. So I'm gonna try to go. I might end up going back into the system. So I'm gonna check on that today and see what happens. The only thing is not having an address. So I'm like, why am I in this position? Like, why am I going through this? And I was dealing with something before, an intrusion, a different intrusion. Well, this, presented a different intrusion, and it felt so, it just felt like, like, oh, I'm an intruder and I'm right here looking at you. So, anyhow, so it hasn't been good. The lady was like, well, how was your day? I was like, it's not good. She was like, well, this too shall pass, and you are living. I was like, yeah, and I know it's gonna pass, and I know, that the enemy is defeated, but like that was just a deal breaker for me, and then I go and I see a car that, someone's been in my place without informing me, without asking me, without any type of notice, just, popping and going in my place. It's like, I just had a real serious deal breaker, and, it's the down part of it is that, it seems like I get the brunt of it, of the situation. Like my life gets disrupted, or, then I have to put my things to storage and move. And, so it's like, when you get to the point where you trust God and you trust God completely, and you're obedient to God, like you can't worry about what others will think of you when you're being obedient. You can't be fearful of failure when you're being obedient. Be uncomfortable or insecure about how others would perceive you when you're being obedient. You can't be have a bad attitude about, how what you anticipate things will happen or things that might happen that goes against your expectations when you're being obedient. You just have to walk in God's name and Jesus' blood and be obedient, and that's what I intend to do. So I have some time to, I'm not gonna go through and go through to the end of the time that I have in here. I'm gonna leave an hour early just so I can make it to this place before they close. And I was like, I called and I was like, well, can you help me? And it was like, yes, you just have to be here a certain time to work. So I'm like, oh gosh, like I've already been through that in another state. So, I'm like, why? I ask myself, why did I have to leave the state? There should be resources here. So it's good that there are resources here. It's like no matter what the situation is, no matter if someone sees us, like, how, I could deal with that and I dealt with this and I dealt with that. And, like Jay-Z, he mentioned he dealt with rats and this and that, like some of the things that he's been through before, he became like Jay-Z, the rapper. But, I guess the only, and I can't be fearful that leaving this situation, I'm going to go into another situation that's similar. Like, they're supposed to help, but it's still a similar situation. And, um, it's just messed up because it's such a nice area, and, it's like it began with one focus and then it went into like the wrong hands, just because, it was considered to be, this person was considered to be family or the inheritor. I guess that's another thing that, for us to think about in the show, doing the show as well, when people pass on and how to not allow their holdings to be destroyed by, someone they thought was their good and faithful and loyal child, or they thought it was their good and faithful loyal sibling, and it turned out to be a snake in the grass, when it comes to business or business decisions. So I did that and I tried to contact News 12, but they said that if they get a lot of calls, a lot of complaints, which my guess is they probably won't. But if they were to, then that's when they'll look into it. But and I did mention that I contacted another foundation, but my guess is, unless they send me an email, like I'm gonna be, like I like when I got, let's see, today's the 29th. There's one more day in this month. So I have about 4 more days. When July come around, I see myself moving out. That intruder was just enough for me. Like that took me over the top. It's enough where there's certain things that I don't do there that I feel as though, you know, I shouldn't have to restrict myself. When it's your home, when it's your, environment, that you shouldn't have to restrict yourself. But going into there and after, someone has been in my place without my knowledge, they're gonna leave a card like, okay, I was here. Um, and after that, and then I go in and there's an intruder. I, like I don't see, I've been there 2 years, and God still has not revealed to me. The only thing that God revealed to me about this location is that there's a lot of conflict, and it's conflict that can't be resolved except with another management, or if this person dies, passes on, and that it can't be resolved. So, you know, um, um, so I have to think about other options. I reached out to some people, with regards to, but reach out to other people that are living out on their own and have their own lives. And, sometimes they're not very expedient. Is that the word? They're not very speedily ready and willing to open up their place to you, So I reached out to some church people, but it might be the same situation there. So I'm gonna go to this place today, right? Like that's gonna be the first thing I do right after ending the show today. Is to go see what this place is talking about and how they can help. And because when I moved out of state, and which is when I started the show, I, was thinking that I would not return back to the state until the problem was resolved. This problem has been going on 2 years. I mean, over 20 years, that is, not 2. Over 20 years. So I was like, until it's resolved, I'm going to go away and not come back until it's resolved, because clearly the city are not in the competence of their law like they're supposed to be. They're not in the competence of their security like they're supposed to be. They're not in the competence of order like they're supposed to be. Without evidence of them being in it, then I needed to not be here. I needed to, not lose that connection, because I was doing a show, and by doing a show, that kept me connected to, that helped keep me connected. And then there's this case where the guy was arraigned for allegedly killing an officer, a special agent. So when I think about everything that I've been through with regards to Virginia law and Virginia security and city police, and I heard one of the ladies saying that the special agent was there doing police work, and that comes up. Like when I caught a show, United, I forget the name. I mean, United Shades of America, I think it is. And he was doing a special. He was focusing on Chicago, and one of the guys that was in the community while he was taping, they were showing the police talking to people, and they were questioning whether it was actual talking or whether it was harassment. And one of the guys in the neighborhood was saying, well, when they're doing, they don't automatically or he doesn't automatically assume when he sees a lot of policemen they're not doing their job, but he's like, when they're doing their job, that's what they're supposed to be doing their job. But when they're not doing their job, then like he didn't even really go into them not doing their job as like in a theory, but that like the only thing that was shown was that like it's all good when they're doing their job, but when they're in uniform, when they're an offender in uniform and they're harassing or they're on some type of personal vendetta mission, um, I don't think that if a civilian or a person is defending themselves in that situation, they should be, they should be punished. You know, um, accountability and punishment can be two different situations. And one of the ladies, I just found it odd that she mentioned that he was there doing, he was there doing his job, as if there could be a slight possibility that he wasn't, you know, um, because her tone just didn't sound very confident. Um, but evidently he was there. Something happened. The guy was in the passenger seat of the car. The car was stopped, and evidently him and the cop got into a scuffle. Shot was fired, and he fatally shot the police officer. The guy ran away, and they're charging him now. At first, they were charging him with a firearms charge and malicious wounding. Now, they're charging him with a capital murder charge. And evidently, there are two options, two consequences to capital murder: death or life in prison without the possibility of parole. The guy is 27 years old at this particular time. And when like I don't know how to describe it when it's like an offender that's like on death row, like a dead man, like they're on death row, like they've done so much shit, they've harmed so many people. Everything that they're doing is just like leading up to it being finalized, because they've hurt and harmed so many people, or the wrong person, like it was God's one of God's childs, they tried to turn into a devil, and um, I don't think in those situations when someone brings it to a close that they should be punished. Yeah, I think they should be held accountable for their part in it, but I think when it's this situation, it doesn't, whether, whatever the role and, that the victim or the slain was attempting to occupy, that considered. They should go into his history, go into any arrests, any complaints. All of that I think should be considered in this situation. It doesn't seem as though they are broadcasting any of that. So we're going to begin again, this time with the show's version of Memoirs of Geisha. By the time a girl is finally ready to make her debut as an apprentice, she needs to have established a relationship with a more experienced geisha. When two girls are bound together as sisters, they perform a ceremony like a wedding. She does this by taking her around Guyana and presenting her to the mistress of all the property houses, to the man who makes wigs for stage performances, to the chefs at the important restaurants, and so on. Because Guyana is like a faint star that comes out in its fullest beauty only after the sun has set. Please be sure to remember her name because she's going to be a big star. But the older sister and the mistress of the tea house will continue to push her on him until he does. The reason a busy and successful geisha goes to all this trouble for a younger girl is because everyone in Gaia benefits when an apprentice succeeds. Even the wig maker and the shop where hair ornaments are sold, and the sweet shop where the apprentice geisha will buy gifts for her patrons from time to time, they may never directly receive a portion of the girl's fees, but certainly they all benefit by the patronage of yet another successful geisha who can bring customers into Gaia to spend money. An acknowledged geisha certainly won't jeopardize her reputation by taking on a younger sister she thinks is dull or someone she thinks her patrons won't like. Hatsumama may have been the sort of woman who would bite a spider right back, but nearly any apprentice would have been happy to be her younger sister. But in my case, Hatsumama could no more have been counting on to help me in Gaia and then be content with the few extra yen it would bring her than a dog can be counted on to escort a cat down the street without taking a bite out of it in the alley. Mother could certainly have compelled Hatsumama to be my older sister, not only because Hatsumama lives in our Okiya, but also because she has so few kimono of her own and was dependent on the Okiya's collection. I had begun to worry that nothing would come of my meeting with Mamiya, but to hear that she had suddenly appeared at our Aokia, well, the blood rushed to my face so intensely that I felt like a light bulb just switched on. But just as her room was filled with lovely objects and yet was hopelessly gloomy, she herself may have been draped in exquisite fabrics, for her eyes were as oily as a piece of old smelly fish, and really, she seemed to regard her hair the way a train regards a smokestack. It was just a thing that happened to be on top. Oh no, Pumpkin said, and listened to my eyes to show how sorry she felt for the trouble I was about to be in. I do hope she hasn't been troubling you. Just yesterday, I realized she must be terribly ill. It's very kind of you, said Mother, but you must be thinking of a different girl. But there must be two such girls in Guyana. None of us realized it, but as she spoke these words, Mother was rising from the table and crossing the little room. By the time I said the door was shut behind me and knelt on the tatami matched to brow, Mother had already settled herself at the table again. I was just saying to Mrs. Nita that I'd begun to worry about you. About to excuse myself, but before I could rise to my feet, Mamiya said, "She's really quite a lovely girl, Mrs. Nita." I was nearly back to my place on the floor of the entrance hall when she finally responded. You'd think that with this terrible depression, customers would have slowed to a trickle, but really, I've never been so busy. But even so, I should think she'll repay them by the time she's 20. After all, in Chio's case, with you as her older sister, her debts will only grow worse before they get better. If the great Mamiya says Chio will repay her debts by the age of 20, how can I doubt it's true? The best I could offer from Chio's future earnings might be only half what you'd ordinarily expect. But if Chio does indeed manage to repay her debts by the age of 20, as you anticipate, I would turn over to you the remainder of what you ought to have made, plus an additional 30%. When I returned to the key, a pumpkin was kneeling on the walkway near the courtyard, making terrible twanging noises with her shamisen. One of my errands had been to buy some cream for the cook's scabbies, but the pharmacy had been out of it. So I decided to go upstairs and apologize to Mother for having come back to the key without it. But today, to my surprise, she turned off the radio and slapped the account book shut the moment she saw me. I bowed to her and went to kneel at the table. Pumpkin and I were doing what we could to buff it out. I only hope you turn out to be a better geisha than you are a liar, she said, and began to laugh, but without taking her pipe out of her mouth, so that she accidentally blew air into the stem and caused ashes to shoot up out of the little metal bowl. She put the pipe down to the table and whacked herself with her palm until she was satisfied they'd all been snuffed out. And then today, along comes a geisha like Mamiya to say she wants to be your older sister. She drifted over and knelt at the table, so close that I had to scoot away to make room for both of us. For some reason, Mother said, Mamiya seems to think Chia will pay her debts by the age of 20. Mother didn't respond. She seemed to be considering what Hatsumoma had told her. She wants to humiliate me by telling everyone, oh, please be my new younger sister. I can't imagine Mamiya behaving that way, Mother said, almost under her breath. If she thinks she can make Chia into a more successful vacation than Pumpkin, Hatsumoma went on, she's going to be very surprised. Now, they'll be fighting it out, and with a couple of the most prominent geisha in Guyana ushering them along. This time she was seated at the table waiting for me when the maid slid open the door. I was careful to bow properly before coming into the room, began to cross to the table and bow again. You better tell me what Mrs. Nita said to you after my visit yesterday. You already know she'd be thrilled to see you fail, just as Mrs. Nita would. Except that if you pay back your debts by the age of 20, she'll owe me a good deal of money. But if I'm going to be your older sister, you may as well know that I have very strict terms. Leave it on the table until it's cool enough to drink. To begin with, I expect you to do what I ask without questioning me or doubting me in any way. One worked very hard, but the other slacked off. You'll have to be careful not to let Hachimomo trick you. And I hadn't learned much to begin with, since I might have been occupied with other things. This is why when I went back to the school after Mia agreed to be my older sister, I honestly felt I was beginning my lessons for the very first time. I was 12 years old by then and nearly as tall as Mia. Most of the girls at their school had begun their studies much younger, in some cases at the traditional age of 3 years and 3 days. You may wonder why a geisha should bother learning drums, but the answer is very simple. A drum may seem like an instrument even a child can play, but actually there are various ways of striking each of them, such as for the big takeoff, bringing the arm across the body and then swinging the drumstick backhand, you might say, which we call uchikomi, or striking with one arm while bringing the other up at the same moment, which we call sarashi. The teacher began by playing something and then the students tried to play it back. On occasion, we sounded like a band of animals at the zoo, but not often because the teachers were careful to begin simply. This is because the dances are set to particular pieces of music, often performed by a singer accompanying herself on the shamisen. When you're taking a lesson in shamisen, for example, you'll be corrected for speaking in anything but the most proper language, or for speaking a regional accent rather than a Kyoto speech, or for slouching or walking in lumbering steps. Anyone who sits down in front of a man and begins to arrange flowers by way of entertaining him is likely to look up and find that he has laid his head down on the table to go to sleep. But basically, a tea ceremony is conducted by one or two people who sit before their guests and prepare tea in a very traditional manner. Even the guests are a part of the ceremony because they must hold the cup in a certain manner and drink from it just so. I'll admit it does look like green soapy water and has a bitter taste that takes a certain getting used to. It isn't unusual for a party at a private residence to begin with a brief tea ceremony. During these years of training, if I had been two people, my life would probably still have been too busy. I know it sounds terribly cruel, but it's the way things were done back then. In the beginning, Pumpkin and I practiced shamisen together every afternoon, right after our hour-long lesson in reading and writing with Auntie. She added it to me because Mamiya and I wouldn't officially be sisters until the time of my debut as an apprentice geisha. Poor Pumpkin lowered her shamisen into her lap just like a dog, putting its tail between its legs. I was terribly afraid of what would happen next. And here Hatsumama pinched Pumpkin by the lips so hard that the shamisen slid off her lap onto the wooden walkway where she was seated and fell from there onto the dirt corridor below. But in fact, her lip began to quiver. Then her whole face trembled like the ground before an earthquake, and suddenly she dropped the pieces of her shamisen into the walkway and put her hand to her lip, which had already begun to swell, while tears rolled down her cheeks. After Pumpkin and I had our talk, she'll know better than to speak a word to you in the future. You'll only get her into trouble, and besides, she'll have to tell Hatsumama what you say. Your only defense is to become more successful than Hatsumama and drive her out. How do you suppose I came by them? I've been thinking that perhaps you were adopted as the daughter of an Okiya before you came to live in this apartment. But the mistress there has a natural daughter. You see, sometimes after a party with Geisha, certain men don't feel satisfied with all the flirting and begin to long for something a bit more. Parties and so on are all very nice, but the real money in Guyana comes from having a Donna. And a geisha without one, such as Hatsumama, is like a stray cat on the street without a master to feed it. These would be the arrangements for an average geisha. To begin with, she wouldn't even consider tarnishing her reputation with a string of Donna, but might instead have only one or two in her entire life. She was Mamiya's older sister, which is why they both had Mami in their names. But in the early 1920s, the Japan Travel Bureau began its first international advertising campaign. Only 16 at the time, but suddenly she found herself being summoned to meet every head of state who came to Japan, and every aristocrat from England or Germany, and every millionaire from the United States. She poured sake for the great German writer Thomas Mann, who afterward told her a long, dull story through an interpreter that went on and on for nearly an hour, as well as Charlie Chaplin and Sun Yat-sen, and later Ernest Hemingway, who got very drunk and said the beautiful red lips on her white face made him think of blood in the snow. In the years since then, Mamiya had grown only more famous by putting on a number of widely publicized dance recitals at the Kabukiza Theater in Tokyo, usually attended by the Prime Minister and a great many other luminaries. Probably I would have felt so intimidated. I couldn't have done much more than tremble in her presence. My job would be to make sure you're well known in Guyana by then, but it's up to you to work hard at becoming an accomplished dancer. The Inouye school of dance practiced by the Geisha of Guyana derives from No theater. Because No is a very ancient art that has always been patronized by the imperial court, dancers in Guyana consider their art superior to the school of dance practiced in the Ponto Cho district across the river, which derives from Kabuki. But Kabuki is a relatively young art form. It didn't exist before the 1700s, and it has always been enjoyed by ordinary people rather than patronized by the imperial court. All apprentice geisha must study dance, but as I say, only the promising and attractive ones will be encouraged to specialize and go on to become true dancers, rather than shamisen players or singers. As for me, I wasn't so exquisitely beautiful that I was given no choice but to dance, like Atsumomo. My instructor was a woman of about 50, known to us as Teacher Rump, because her skin gathered at her throat in such a way as to make a little rear end there beneath her chin. She went to her. I know this because Teacher Rump told it to me some years later and said, Teacher, may I be ready to ask you a favor? My dancing wasn't bad, really, but Teacher Rump began at once to use me as an example of how things should not be done. I can assure you I've done no worse of this than anyone else, but Teacher Rump came and stood before me with that little rear end under her chin quivering and tapped her folding fan against her thigh 3 times before drawing it back and striking me on the side of the head with it. In the dances of the new school, the face must be kept perfectly expressionless in imitation of the mask worn in no theater. But for her to complain about my chin twitching at the very moment when her own was trembling in anger, well, I was on the edge of tears because she struck me, but the other students burst out laughing. I'm happy to say she felt so terrible by the way she had treated me that I soon became one of her favorite students. Since meeting the chair on the street that day back in the spring, I had longed for nothing so much as a chance to become a geisha and find a place for myself in the world. Then after that, I began to discover little tricks that made everything go more smoothly. But once I tried to make use of the various tricks I discovered, but they were of little help to me. The strange thing was that I'd been thinking kind thoughts toward her the very moment she turned on me. I felt terribly sad afterward and found myself thinking of my sister, who was somewhere in Japan without me, and of my mother, who I hope was at peace in paradise now, and of my father, who'd been so willing to sell us and live out the end of his life alone. As these thoughts ran through my head, my body began to grow heavy. My arm passed through the air with great dignity and movement, not like a leaf fluttering from a tree, but like an ocean liner gliding through the water. I suppose that by dignity I mean a kind of self-confidence or certainty, such that a little puff of wind or the lap of a wave isn't going to make any difference. Then came the day Pumpkin dressed as an apprentice geisha for the first time and went with Hatsumomo to the Mizuku tea house for the ceremony to bind them together as sisters. But I did stand among them in the formal entrance hall until Pumpkin came down the stairs assisted by the maids. You might expect that with the ornaments in her hair and the brilliant red of her lips, she should have looked proud and lovely, but I thought she looked more worried than anything else. When at last the photograph was taken, Pumpkin stumbled a few steps from the door and turned to look back. The others were on their way out to join her, but I was the one she looked at, with an expression that seemed to say she was very sorry for the way things had turned out. By the end of the day, Pumpkin was officially known by her new geisha name of Hatsumiya. But she'd been much busier than usual lately, traveling frequently to Tokyo at the request of her Donna, with the result that we hadn't set eyes on each other in nearly 6 months. When I stepped inside, the maid let out a gasp, and then a moment later, Mamiya came walking out of the back room and let out a gasp as well. And then when I got on my knees to bow to Mamiya and tell her how honored I was to see her again, she paid me no attention at all. Finally, Maria asked Tatsumi to take me into the back room and put me in a proper kimono. I'd arrived in the blue and white custom cotton robe I wore that morning to my lessons at the school, but Tatsumi changed into a dark blue silk covered with a design of tiny carriage wheels in shades of brilliant yellow and red. I might have been taken for a young apprentice geisha on her way to a party. As we stepped out into the street, an elderly woman slowed to bow to Maria and then, in almost the same moment, turned to bow to me. The bright sunlight had blinded my eyes so much I couldn't make out whether or not I knew her. We made our way up the street, and everyone we passed saying something to me, or at the very least bowing to her, and then afterward giving me a little nod or bow as well. Several times I stopped to bow back, with the result that I fell a step or two behind Maria. My trouble, she explained, was that I had learned to move the upper half of my body independently of the lower half. When I needed to bow to someone, I stopped my feet. You might stop altogether to bow to one of your teachers, or for anyone else, don't slow more than you need to, for heaven's sake, or you'll never get anywhere. Go along at a constant pace when you can, taking little steps to keep the bottom of your kimono fluttering. I told Maria that afternoon about Pumpkin's debut, and for months afterward, I hoped she would say that the time had come for my apprenticeship to begin as well. Even when it rained and she had no errands to run, we walked under lacquered umbrellas, making our way from store to store to check when the new shipment of perfume would arrive from Italy or whether a certain kimono repair was finished, though it wasn't scheduled to be completed for another week. At first, I thought perhaps Mia took me with her so that she could teach me things like proper posture, but she was constantly rapping me on the back with her closed folding fan to make me stand straighter, and about how to behave toward people. But then one day, as we were walking out of a bookstore, I suddenly realized what she was doing, really doing. She had no particular interest in going to the bookstore, or the wig maker, or the stationer. You're getting to be rather well known, don't you think? She said to me. Finally, I bowed to her and thanked her. Soon, I saw two businessmen in Western suits, but I had no better luck with them. Make him drop the tray. Before I could make my mind whether she was joking, she turned up a side street and was gone. When we were very close, I changed my course ever so slightly to begin crowding him so that he wouldn't be able to pass me without stepping over the curb onto the sidewalk. And then I looked him right in the eye. And I'm happy to say that the young man began to laugh too. I helped him pick up his boxes, gave him a little smile before he bowed to me more deeply than any man had ever bowed to me before, and then went on his way. I think perhaps you're as ready now as you'll ever need to be, she said. Sometimes I imagine him along the room, wearing out a Western style business suit with the Japanese dress so many men wore in the evenings to relax. I don't know if this will make sense to you, but my mind on the eve of my debut was like a garden in which the flowers have only begun to poke their faces up through the soil, so that it is still impossible to tell how things will look. It was an image of the geisha I wanted to become. Diane had quite a number of hairdressers in those days. Mamiya's worked in a terribly crowded room above an ear restaurant. The elaborate hairstyles Geisha wore in those days required so much effort and expense that no one went to the hairdresser more than once a week or so. By the end of that time, even the perfumes they put in their hair weren't of much help. Then he poured a bucket of warm water over my hair and began to scrub it with soap. The hairdresser may have had the best motives, but after a while my scalp felt so raw I was almost in tears from the pain. At length he satisfied himself that the knots were gone. Scratch that. I was starting to think the worst was over, but then he took out a bar of wax. If you tried such a thing with a dog, it would bite you so much you'd be able to see through your hands. Evenly waxed, the hairdresser swept the forelock back and brought the rest up into a large knot like a pincushion on the top of the head. When viewed from the back, this pincushion has a split in it, as if it's cut in two, which gives the hairstyle its name. of split peach. On my way back to the key, it didn't matter to me that my poor scalp felt the way clay must feel after the potter had scored it with a sharp stick. Every time I caught a glimpse of myself in the glass of a shop, I felt I was someone to be taken seriously. Not a girl anymore, but a young woman. The moment she awakened, she had to go right back to the hairdresser again. It's not so much a pillow as a cradle for the base of the neck. Most are padded with a bag of wheat chaff, but still, they're not much better than putting your neck on a stone. For a time, I woke up every morning with my hair ruined. It had to wait in line at the hairdresser for my chance to be tortured. Every afternoon during the week leading up to my debut, Auntie dressed me in the complete regalia of an apprentice geisha and made me walk up and down the dirt corridor of the okia to build on my strength. In the beginning, I could scarcely walk at all, and worried that I might tip over backward. Young girls dress much more ornately than older women, you see, which means brighter colors and showier fabrics, but also a longer obi. No matter how brightly colored a kimono might be, the obi is nearly always brighter. When a princess geisha walks down the street in front of you, you notice not her kimono, but rather her brilliantly colored dangling obi with just a modicum kimono showing at the shoulders and on the sides. Just to carry it up the stairs is exhausting, so you can imagine how it feels to wear it. The thick band of it squeezing your middle like one of those awful snakes, and the heavy fabric hanging behind, making you feel as if someone had strapped a traveling trunk to your back. You may have noticed that when a woman is wearing kimono and stretches out her arms, the fabric below the sleeve hangs down to form something like a pocket. But I believe the apprentice geisha of Guyana is perhaps the most brilliantly colored primate of all. I knew that the person kneeling before the makeup stand was me, but so was the unfamiliar girl gazing back. Beginning at the hem of my gown, the golden dragon circled at the bottom of the road to the middle of the thigh. Most of the first-class tea houses in Ireland are invisible from the street, except for their simple entrances, but the Ichiriki is as obvious as an apple on a tree. We were joined there by two of Mamiya's younger sisters, as well as by mother. When we had all assembled in the exterior garden, the maid led us through the entrance hall and down a beautiful meandering corridor to a small tatami room in the back. I have some even now, which I keep in a wooden bowl, and when I smell it, I see myself back there once again. The ceremony, which was attended by the mistress of the Ichiriki, lasted only about 10 minutes. My new name came from Sa, meaning together, U from the zodiac sign for the hand, in order to balance other elements of my personality, and Ri, meaning understanding. I thought Sayuri was a lovely name, but it felt strange not to be known as Chio any longer. The gourd, being hollow and light, is thought to offset the heaviness of the body easily, and many a clumsy young apprentice has relied upon one to help keep her from falling down. Because that's exactly what's going to happen if you hold your arm so high. You may not want me looking up your sleeve, but that doesn't mean you have to act prissy. She took it and turned it in her hand to look at the top and the bottom. Mamiya said the prettiest part of the arm was the underside, so I must always be sure to hold the teapot in such a way that the man saw the bottom of my arm rather than the top. Unless you were doing it just to be vulgar. You may as well show me the bottom of your foot or the inside of your thigh. But to make such a point of showing it to me, most people think it very elegant the way they taper down like a wedge, so that the footprint at the bottom is about the half the size of the top. As for a kid, there must have been hundreds of those, but we went only to the few with which Mia had some sort of relationship. I would have liked nothing better than to go back to the IKEA to fall asleep for a long while. I was back in her good graces again. None of my foolish mistakes were behind me, and my future seemed even brighter than pumpkins. She woke me after my nap, and I rushed to the bathhouse as quickly as I could. I felt terribly excited, as you can imagine, because for years I watched Hot Momo and Lady Pumpkin go off in the afternoons and evenings looking beautiful, and now at last my turn has come. Banquets are stiffly formal affairs, with all the guests sitting shoulder to shoulder in a sort of U shape around the outside of a big tatami room, and trays of food sitting on little stands in front of them. Toward the end of the banquet, the doors at one side of the room were split open, and Mia and another geisha performed a dance together, known as Chiyo no Tomo, Friends Everlasting. As I said, the dance was lovely, and so was the music, which was played on the shamisen by a terribly thin geisha with small, watery eyes. I was just turning to thank Maria and bid her good night when she said to me, "Well, I thought of sending you back to bed now, but you seem to be so full of energy." The party, as she explained to me along the way, was to be given by the man who ran the National Theater in Tokyo. My only responsibility was to be sure I always looked pretty and alert. I hardly dared to look inside when Mia knelt and slid open the door, but I could see 7 or 8 men seated on cushions around a table and perhaps 4 geisha. We greeted the other geisha first, as Mia had told me to do, then the host at one point of the table, and afterward the other guests. Mia led me around the table and knelt beside the host. This was my cue to bow and say my name and beg the director's indulgence and so on. In the meantime, Al gave Maria a cup of sake to calm her nerves, the director said, and washed out his own sake cup in a bowl of water on the center of the table, which was there for that very reason, before offering it to her. Well, the other geisha began, this fellow Kanda-san is the best wig maker in Guyana, or at least everyone says so. She always has the best of everything, you know. She certainly has the best smear, said one of the men. During the performance, the geisha went on, a wig maker is always backstage to help with changes of costume, or a little bit of hair. I want to be a wig maker. How can it hurt you to be nice? Just when things were starting to calm down, the director started it all over by rising to his feet and beginning to untie the sash of his robe. I have to say, I was very relieved he'd given up, because although all the others seemed to be enjoying themselves enormously, I felt embarrassed. I began to panic because I needed a wig for my next entrance, but soon we found him sitting on a chest against the wall looking very weak and sweating. All right, I'll tell you what he wrote, said the Geisha who began the story. But today, when you rushed to the toilet, you gave me the greatest moment of my life. While you were inside, I hid myself at the door, and the beautiful tinkling sound, more lovely than a waterfall. And the beautiful tinkling sound, more lovely than a waterfall, made me hard and stiff while I myself tinkled. But the truth is, I was finding it difficult to believe these men, who had paid so considerably to be there, among women wrapped in beautiful, expensive robes, really wanted to hear the same sorts of stories children back in the pond in Yoreoda might have told. But before I could answer, his eyebrows began to twitch, and a moment later he reached up and scratched his head so much that a little cloud of snow spilled onto his shoulders. As it turned out, he was on a diet as Mr. Snowshowers because of his terrible dandruff. I gave him a smile and had just begun to raise the cup slowly to my lips, not knowing what else I could do, when thank heavens Maria rescued me. It won't do for you to get drunk, she said, though she was speaking for the benefit of Mr. Snowshowers. Then I put the cup down on the table hurriedly and said, I felt very relieved when I patted my lips with it, and I'm happy to say that Mr. Snowshower didn't even know. So he was busy eyeing the cup as it sat there full on the table before him. After a moment, he picked it up in two fingers and poured it right down his throat before standing and excusing himself to use the toilet. They had their backs to the door so that I didn't see their faces until I followed Mr. Snowshowers around the table and taken up my place once again. You can imagine how shocked I felt when I saw them, for there on the other side of the table was the one woman I would have given anything to avoid. I glanced at her for sympathy, but she just stared at the table with her hands in her lap. The men might not have pictured the story happening to me either, but they certainly would now. And my face felt so hot from nervousness that I wouldn't have been surprised my makeup had simply melted and begun to drip onto my lap. There was a terrible wind, the sort that rattles the windows, and poor Marjorie had so little experience with kimono. She was no heavier than a leaf, and those big sleeves can be just like sails, you know. I tried my best to make the noise. Of course, the men were in hysterics by now, including the director, who tapped his sake cup on the tabletop like a machine gun and said, "Why doesn't anything like this ever happen to me?" I mean, can you imagine looking at the private parts of this girl across the table? Why, Mamiya Sanhat's woman said, "This has simply been too much for him." But Auntie and Hachimura must have begun to argue because the next thing I heard was Hachimura saying, "If this girl embarrasses me in public again, I'll be happy to slap the other side of her face." He went on to become very famous a few years later, but only because of the manner of his death. Next, we stopped at a party given by the Chancellor of Kyoto University. Mamiya at once began talking with a man she hadn't seen in some time and left me on my own. The only space I could find at the table was beside an old man in a stained white shirt who must have been very thirsty because he was drinking continually from a glass of beer, except when he moved it away from his mouth to burp. I expected to see a maid deliver another run of sake, but there in the hall were no hot momo and pumpkin. I said it every afternoon by the clock at the train station. I'm afraid Sayuri and I have no choice but to be rude and excuse ourselves. In hazy darkness, I couldn't make out her features, but only the beautiful oval shape of her face with its elaborate crown of hair. I don't much want to go, but at least Hatsumomo won't be there. A sprinkle of laughter fell down to us from the second story windows brightly lit overhead. I don't think he cared about the dance, really. It was just a way to end the drinking games and encourage his guests to begin paying attention to him again. She didn't even come back to the table afterward, but just said to the conductor, "Thank you so much for permitting us to drop in." On the bottom step, she came to a halt and waited. "But tell me, what will you do with the funds you've just earned?" Swallowing so nervously, I could tell she was lying. Of course, we didn't know about Yoko's involvement at the time, but Mia was quite right in assuming that the maid in the tea house had passed the message to Hatsumomo somehow or other. I saw her in a bathhouse once. You may as well go back to your Okia, said Yuri, until we come up with a new plan. One afternoon during World War II, some years after these events I'm telling you about now, an officer took his pistol out of his holster during a party beneath the boughs of a maple tree and laid it on the straw mat to impress me. I remember being struck by its beauty. But when I thought of its real purpose as I listened to her stories, it ceased to be beautiful at all and became something monstrous instead. I went on a day trip by train to Kobe, where Mia cut the ribbon for a new factory. This tour made quite an impression on me, for it was my first time seeing the vast city of Kyoto, that lay beyond the bounds where I would have gone, not to mention my first time riding in a car. I won't pretend poor people never came to Guyana, but we rarely saw any one of these starving peasants, too poor even to bathe. But that day, I realized it was true. Late one morning, I returned from the school to find a note telling me to bring my makeup and rush to Amiya's apartment. When I arrived, Mr. Ichoda, who was a dresser just like Mr. Becker, was in the back room tying Mamiya's obi before a full-length mirror. Mamiya's apartment was enormous by the standards of Guyana. I was puzzled by the futon. When I went to begin applying my makeup, Mamiya told me why she had summoned me. "The Baron is back in town," she said. I haven't had occasion to meet the Baron, but Mamiya was referring to Baron Matsunaga Tsuneyoshi Hidana. By this time, one of Mamiya's maids was just returned from a nearby restaurant with a big liqueur box holding the Baron's lunch. The food was inside and on plates and bowls, ready to be served just as in a restaurant. A few minutes later, the Baron arrived. Beards were very fashionable at that time. The Baron wore a number of long, soft hairs on his face that I'm sure was supposed to resemble a beard, but looked to me more like some sort of garnish or like the thin strips of seaweed that are sometimes sprinkled into a bowl of rice. The Baron seated himself there, but as for what happened afterward, I can't say, because Mamiya's maid came over to me and bowed in an apology before giving the door a gentle push to slide it the rest of the way closed. I stayed in Mamiya's little dressing room for an hour or more while the maid went in and out serving the Baron's lunch. I heard the murmur of Mamiya's voice occasionally, but mainly the Baron did the talking. I went out to kneel before the Baron, feeling very nervous, for I never met an aristocrat before. But he seemed to be looking around the apartment, hardly taking notice of me at all. It was an ink painting of something or other, much better than the thing you have there now. It wasn't, but in any case, the Baron hasn't honored me with a visit in nearly 3 months. When Mia summoned her maid and asked her to bring the scroll from the closet, my hands were trembling so much that it slipped from my grasp and I held it up for the Baron to have a look. I couldn't help glancing at the Baron again and again to see if he seemed angry with me. But he still seemed to be looking at me and made no effort to look away when I glanced at him. Mia had no choice but to do as the Baron suggested. She even managed to look if she thought it was a fine idea. When the maid and I had finished hanging the painting and rolling up the other scroll, Mia called me over to pour tea for the Baron. To look at us from above, we formed a little triangle, Mia, the Baron, and me. Of course, Mamiya and the Baron did all the talking. As for me, I did nothing more useful than to kneel there, feeling as much out of my element as a pigeon in a nest of falcons. To think I'd ever imagined myself worthy of entertaining the sorts of men Mamiya entertained, not only grand aristocrats like the Baron, but the chairman as well. I won't say I felt worthy of the Baron's company earlier, but now I couldn't help realizing once again that I was nothing more than an ignorant girl from a fishing village. Aaron, who I was beginning to realize was something of a nervous man, leaned over to scratch at a mark on the surface of Maria's table. It made me think of my father on the last day I'd seen him, digging, grime out of ruts, in the wood with his fingernails. And then I became aware of all the magnificent silk wrapped about my body, and had the feeling I might drown in beauty. At that moment, beauty itself struck me as a kind of painful melancholy. And I'm going to stop there. So we're stopping on chapter 16. And that is Memoirs of a Geisha by Arthur Golden, the Late Late Show BT version. So this has been the Late Late Show with BT. Bye.